You can see.
Sorry.
It just needs a minute. Yeah, so you can see the number.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Sorry, hold on, that's with the mic. Thank you all for coming. We are your counseling team. I am Mrs. Myers. I work with students with last names OJ to SH.
I'm Mrs. Swami, and I have last names BU through GI.
Hi guys, my name is Mrs. Foot, and I serve students with last names GL through K.
Good afternoon, my name is Mr. Cronin. I serve students L through OD.
I'm Mrs. Williams, and I serve students at I through D. And our counselor, Mrs. Gamez, she serves the beginning of the alphabet, A through B. She was not able to be present today.
Hello, my name is Karen Perez. I'm the vice principal of alternative education and student services, and I work closely with the counseling team.
So we're going to do this presentation live, and we also have some people online as well, and this will be recorded as well.
I'll go ahead and start. Can you guys all hear me fine? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to try to not use the microphone. So yeah, I'll start the presentation, and then at the end we'll have questions so that live can also ask questions, and then you'll be able to ask any of your questions as well. So the agenda for today is so we'll discuss all of these various topics. We'll go through each one as detailed as we can. Okay. Sorry, I can't see that screen because there's a glare, and hopefully the online can see. Oh, there we go. Okay. So last year, when students were junior, we went to all of their junior classrooms, and we discussed Naviance and college research and all of that good stuff. We had them make a list about 10 to 20 schools that they were interested in attending. And so hopefully throughout the summer, they maybe visited some schools and worked with all of you to come up with a good list of 10 to 20 schools that they're interested in attending. Now what we're having them do, we've gone to all their adulting classes and presented to them. And from the 10 to 20, we have them narrow it down to the ones that they're actually interested in. So they had a big variety of schools that they looked at, and now they'll narrow it down. So we'll review, and so sorry, I can't see that. So UC and private out-of-state schools may require letters of personal statements and things like that. So we've had them start those hopefully in the summer as well. And then if your student is playing a college level sport, they should be registered with NCAA and should have scheduled a meeting with their counselor so that their counselor can help review NCAA with them and make sure they're meeting the eligibility requirements. So there's like high school graduation requirements, 4-year college requirements, and then NCAA for college athletes has a whole separate set of requirements. So 2-year college, two-year college. So eligibility information for attending a community college. There is no minimum GPA requirement. It's an open access school. Basically, they graduate high school, they're eligible to apply to 2-year college. They do not need the SAT and ACT. One of the most common questions we get is, well, I plan on going to a 2-year college and then I want to transfer to a 4-year. So then do I still need to do the SAT and ACT? No. The answer is no. If they're going to a 2-year first and then transferring to a 4-year from a 2-year, they will never have to do the SAT or ACT. English and math placement through the community college is by their high school transcript. So although no GPA is required to attend a community college, we still encourage students that are planning to go to a 2-year to do well in their senior year and all throughout high school, because there are some classes they will have to take like as remedial classes if they have a low GPA. And if they're not meeting like language and English and math requirements, they're going to have to do those again at the junior college. Okay. Financial aid, the application for FAFSA opens October 1st and it's due by March 2nd. That doesn't mean that you have to wait until March 2nd to submit the application. So if you open it up October 1st and you happen to complete it October 1st, then you're done with it. But the deadline, usually it is a hard deadline of March 2nd. The California DREAM Act is for undocumented students. It works the same way as FAFSA would. We will try to have representatives, maybe from Delta College, from their financial aid department, come and present to our seniors and guide them a little bit better on how financial aid works. So there are many pathways within community colleges. There's the AA and AS degree where students can just attend a community college and earn their associate's degree from the campus. There are several CTE, career technical education opportunities at community colleges across. So if your student is planning on doing like a 2-year for a 4-year transfer, most of the community colleges in the area will offer the same thing. But if they want a specific program at the community college, let's say they want to be a firefighter, well, Delta College doesn't offer that, so they will have to do a little bit of research. And if they did do their research, then they would understand that like Las Positas does offer like a firefighter program. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about with community colleges is the TAG agreement. TAG stands for Transfer Agreement Guarantee. There are 6 UCs that are a part of this TAG program, and almost all of the CSUs. What this means is that students, let's say someone's dream school is UC Davis, but they don't get in as a first-time freshman, and so they decide they want to go to a community college. They can do a TAG agreement, transfer agreement guarantee, it's like a contract that they'll do with their community college that says if they take these classes, it's limited to majors, so keep that in mind. Like computer science isn't available for UC Davis in the TAG program, but there are several majors that are. What they can do is they can guarantee themselves a spot into that college by completing a sequence of classes that they'll discuss with their counselor at the community college. All right. So the benefits of 2-year college, it is significantly cheaper than a 4-year college. Some of them still get to live at home and save money that way. So CSU roughly costs $6,500 a semester. UC is around $14,000 per semester, and private colleges are around $36,000 per semester. Community college is roughly $1,300 per semester. The nice part about community colleges, especially the ones in our area like Las Positas and Delta College, they offer programs. For example, if your family doesn't qualify for money through the FAFSA, community colleges like Delta and Las Positas may offer you free tuition for up to 2 years. So a lot of families are like, well, we didn't do the FAFSA because we know that we don't qualify. It's still important to do that because the only way community colleges or any college will know that you don't qualify for any free federal money is by completing that application, even though you know that you're not going to qualify for any free federal money. Your community college will be able to see that you didn't qualify, and they may offer you free tuition since you didn't qualify. Okay. Yeah, so Delta was, last year they were offering students that didn't qualify for any free federal money up to 2 years free tuition. The other benefit is if your student is unsure of where they want to go to school, where they want to go to school and what they want to major. Community college lets them explore several different classes and gets them kind of accustomed to what college classes look like. Yeah, so we talked about costs, and then we talked about different opportunities. Yeah. So, yeah. Can we please take questions at the end? Yeah, sorry, I just want to get through the presentation and then maybe others will have a similar question. So the balance list that we talked about earlier, where we had students look at 10 to 20, we're now having them make a more of a balanced list. So we have them pick about 2 to 3 safety schools. We just talked about community colleges. Community college is a safety school since it's open access. A target school, we would like them to have at least 3 or 4. Those are schools where they're meeting all the requirements for that college, GPA, and whatever else the college is requiring. So they're right on target. A reach school is where they're almost there, maybe just like off by a hairline. That would be like a little bit of a reach school. And then 1 to 2 lottery schools. For example, Stanford is a lottery school. So we encourage some students that meet the eligibility requirements to apply to some reach and lottery schools. So UCs and CSUs are no longer accepting the SAT or ACT. And what I mean like not accepting, that doesn't mean, it means like they're not going to even look at it. The number one question about testing is, well, what if I take it and I do really well? Will that help me? It won't, because they're not allowed to look at your testing scores for admissions purposes. The only way it will help if your student is going to take it anyways, just for their personal preference, is if they get accepted to the UC or CSU, they may use their scores for placement purposes. Maybe they want to place in a different math class or something like that. They could use their SAT or ACT score for placement purposes. Some private and out-of-state schools may require the SAT or ACT. So a lot of the advising that we do is for UC and CSU and community colleges. But if your student's planning on going to a private school or out-of-state school, it's important for you guys to do that research to see what that school is requiring for admission purposes. So students have until December 2022 to take the SAT and ACT and use it for admissions. Four-year eligibility GPA. So for UC campuses, the minimum GPA requirement is a 3.0 to apply. UC and CSU uses very specific GPA. It consists of classes taken in the sophomore and junior year through the summer of their junior year. A lot of our students are like, well, what about all the classes I took in freshman year? They still look at those, and you're still meeting A through G requirements through those classes you're taking in freshman and senior year. But however, students are starting to apply to college now, and they don't have any senior year grades. So those won't be a part of the application for initial admissions. So it consists of college prep classes taken in their sophomore and junior year. And we go over how to, we explain to students how to calculate their UC and CSU GPA a number of times throughout the year. CSU, the minimum GPA is 2.5. For the majority of CSUs, there are some CSUs that, depending on the major, will accept students below a 2.5, and they will require supplemental information. The private and out of school, again, they have different requirements, so that will be something that you guys will have to research on your own. And yeah.
So for four-year colleges, they may have a essay requirement that they need to complete. If they're looking only at CSU campuses, there is no essay requirement. So if they're only applying to some of the 23 CSU campuses, no essay, they just need to worry about submitting the application. UC campuses, the UC application does require all students to fill out the personal insight questions. The personal insight questions is a list of 8 questions that they can choose from, and all students need to answer 4 at 250 words per response or less, okay? They don't want to do a 500-word response. That's not what they're looking for, so make sure we keep those responses at 250 words or less. We will be posting this PowerPoint, so you guys might be seeing some of these links in here. So this will be, actually it's already posted, but you'll be able to access this PowerPoint, including the links. Because as you can see, we have the link there to the personal insight questions. There's a guide online already available. All 8 questions are already listed. So this is something your students are hopefully already working on if they're planning on applying to UC campuses. For private and out of states, you guys might be noticing a theme here. It varies per campus. So if your student is applying to a private or out of state campus, they should be checking for that GPA requirement. They should be checking for that SAT, ACT requirement, and they should also be checking to see if they have an essay requirement. Some private or out of state schools require an essay and some do not. So it just kind of depends on the campus. A couple of recommendations or tips when your student is writing their essay. The biggest one that comes from admissions counselors is make sure you answer the prompt. So we always encourage students to maybe give their responses to a parent, a family member, a sibling, a teacher, or somebody, read the response and give them feedback on, does it look like they actually answered the prompt in that response? Okay, so encourage your students to be sharing their essay responses with people in your family or other people that might be able to help. Of course, the counseling department is available for support as well. Another tip that we recommend is make sure that you are following the word limit. One of the biggest annoyance, I think, for admissions counselors, I hear this all the time, is when a student goes over the word limit. It really bothers them. You have to think that these admissions counselors are reading thousands and thousands and thousands of applications. If they're asking for that 250 word response, they don't want to read 1,000 responses at 500 words. So just make sure that they are following all directions, especially that word limit. They should really be sharing information that will not be seen in their general application. So try to remind them that think of things that is not going to be shared by answering the questions on the application. Give context or additional information beyond what they're going to see in that application. This is their opportunity to do so. We do have a virtual workshop. I know it's kind of cut off on the bottom there, but there is a link to a virtual workshop that we gave at one of our college weeks in previous years, where I went over about 25 minutes worth of essay writing tips. So that virtual workshop is on the counseling blog for you guys, and it's also linked in this presentation. So a couple of different types of college applications. The UC and CSU campuses use a portal style application. So for UC campuses, they'll have one account, and for CSU campuses, they'll have another account. Both of those accounts are linked for you guys right there. That will take students directly into the create an account with that institution. So for my UC and CSU apply, they'll be filling out one application for each. So if they plan on applying to only UC and CSU campuses, they'll be filling out one application for UC and they'll be filling out one application for CSU. At the end of those applications, they will be choosing which campuses they want the application to be sent to. Okay, so if they're planning on applying to 4 of the UC campuses, they're only filling out the one application, but at the end, they select the 4 campuses that they want that application to be sent to. You are paying per campus. So even though it's only one application that you may be filling out, you pay per campus. And it's about $70 or $80 per campus. So, which is why we have that recommendation of only about 6 to 10 balanced list of schools, because it gets expensive if your kid is applying to 20, 30, 40 schools. And ultimately, they're only attending one. So we don't want you to spend a ton of money during this application period when it's ultimately one campus that they're going to be going to. So talked about UC-CSU. For private or out-of-state campuses, many private or out-of-state campuses use what's called the common application or the coalition. They're similar to the MyUC or CSU Apply, where it's one application that you're filling out. And then at the end, you select how many campuses you want that application to go to. So if your student is planning on applying to multiple private or out-of-state schools, I recommend that they check to see if that private or out-of-state school utilizes the common application or the coalition, because it'll make their life easier if all of the private schools that they're applying to are using the common application. They just fill out that one application and then they select all the campuses that they want the application to go to. Some private or out-of-state schools are what's called an individual application, meaning they don't use that portal-style common application coalition. You have to submit the application directly to that school's website. So it's just an application for that one specific campus. Continue. Oh no, what happened here? Oh, there it goes. Okay. So for private or out-of-state schools, they may have the opportunity to choose a decision type. And this can really change the due date of their college application materials. So this is a really important decision that they need to make, and they need to make it carefully. So private or out-of-state schools, they'll have, for the most part, a regular deadline, an early decision deadline, an early action deadline, or restrictive early action deadline. So the regular deadline is going to be that standard deadline that's advertised to all students on their website, and that's the deadline for everybody. So if they want to just apply with this at the regular deadline, they can choose that when they are filling out their application, and it would be due. A lot of them are due around December 1st, early January, early February is kind of when those dates pop up. But again, they vary per campus. They may also have the option to choose early decision. This can only be done for one campus, and it is going to mean that they're going to have an earlier deadline. The earliest one I've seen so far, I think, is like a October 15th one or something. So they can come up. Oh, October 1st. Okay. So they can come up quickly. I can tell you guys have been doing your research. Good job. So early decision can only be done for one campus, and it shows strong interest in the campus. So if your student is absolutely in love with a certain private or out-of-state school, this might be a good option for them. The only thing that I really caution students and parents about is that if you choose early decision, this is a binding decision. So when they're filling out the application, if they choose early decision and the campus says, yes, we are accepting you, your student is attending that school no matter what other acceptances they received from other campuses. So that's why we say be very, very careful with this decision. If your student is thinking they're going to be applying early action, they should be 200% confident that that is the school for them no matter anything else. Because they're making that decision before they get acceptances from other campuses, and they're making that decision before they hear about their financial aid packages. So maybe they get accepted into a school that they thought they were going to receive financial aid for, and then they don't end up receiving the financial aid. They're bound to that school because they did the early decision deadline. So if that kind of worries y'all a little bit, there's a couple of other options that still show that strong interest in the campus, but it's not a binding decision. So early action would be another option. This is going to, again, have an earlier due date for students and for those materials. It does show more interest in the campus, so it tells that college campus that your student is really, really interested in this school, which is a good thing. And you're able to do early action for unlimited application. So early action is not a binding decision. Okay, if they apply early action to something and they get accepted, it doesn't mean they have to attend that campus. I know it's kind of cut off on the end there. Restrictive early action is kind of a combo of these two. Restrictive early action, you're only able to do it for one campus, so it shows a really strong interest. It's going to have that earlier deadline, but it's not a binding decision. Okay, so the one that I want students and you guys to be really, really careful about is that early decision, just because that's the binding decision. If they decide to apply early, either early decision, early action, or restrictive early action, the one benefit to that is that they could have the opportunity to be reviewed twice. So let's say they submit their materials early, they're reviewed by the admissions counselor. With the early applicants, they get denied. They don't earn a spot. What's going to happen is they're going to be put in with the regular deadline students. They'll be reviewed again, and maybe at that time, compared to that group of students, they'll earn admission at that point. So that's kind of the positive of maybe choosing one of these early deadlines, is that it does show the school that your student has more interest in it, and it does allow them to potentially be reviewed twice during the application period. A couple of important deadlines. For UC, CSU applications, that due date is November 30th. That falls the week we return from Thanksgiving break. So counselors highly recommend that students try to finish their CSU and UC applications by Friday, November 18th. That's when we leave for our Thanksgiving break. The reason we recommend that is because every year we have students emailing us frantically over Thanksgiving break because they didn't get their questions answered and they need help on their applications. Well, just like your students, we're also taking a break and spending time with family during Thanksgiving. So we're not checking those emails at that time. So it's really important that they try to get them completed by November 18th so they know everything that they need to do. If they're not able to finish it, they should at least have looked through the whole application and got their questions answered if they have any, okay? For private and out of states, again, those due dates really vary. It's the student's responsibility to keep track of those deadlines. So if they are planning on applying to a lot of private or out of state campuses, I highly recommend that they start maybe this weekend getting online, checking out those websites and determining what the due dates are for all of those schools they plan on applying to. For community college, so if your student decides to apply directly to your community college, or maybe if they're waiting to hear back from their 4 years and they're not sure if they're going to go 2 or 4 year, don't worry. They can use spring 2023 to apply. That application opens on January 1st, 2023, and they have the spring semester. So they have a lot of time to figure out, one, did I get accepted into the 4 years that I want? If not, they can still make that decision to go to the 2-year community college campus. Again, cut off on the bottom, but we kind of talked about it a little bit already. FAFSA and the California Dream Act, that application opens October 1st. We highly recommend anybody pursuing higher education fill out that application. Letters of recommendation. So the UC and CSU application does not accept letters of recommendation. They won't even look at them. So if your student only plans on applying to colleges within the CSU or UC system, they do not need to ask anybody for a letter of recommendation. Same thing with community college. Community college doesn't require any of letters of recommendation. For private or out of states, again, they might require it. So it's the student's responsibility to hop on that college website and check to see what their requirements are. Sometimes they say it's optional. Honestly, if they say it's optional, I encourage them to submit it, even though it's not required, because it's more information that the school has on your student. And the more information that they have to kind of create a clearer picture, it's only going to work in their benefit. They could require more than one letter of recommendation. So make sure that they're taking note to see if more than one is required, because if so, they'll want to make sure that they submit the number that they are requiring. If a letter of recommendation is needed, the first thing that they're going to do is fill out their senior info survey on Naviance. And this is something we've already shared with all students, so they should be aware. They're also going to need to ask their letter writer, teacher, staff member, counselor, whatever it may be, at least 3 school weeks in advance. Okay, it's really important that they give their letter writer plenty of time to submit this in a timely manner. It is something that we do outside of our regular, counselor or teacher duties. So we need to make sure that we give everybody enough time to submit it and get it in on time. So make sure that they're asking their individuals at least 3 weeks in advance. Once they get approval that, yes, I will write that letter for you, they're going to submit the request in their Naviance account, because it's going to notify that teacher or staff member that they have a request for the student, and they just submit it right up into Naviance and it gets sent directly to the school. So we don't do that much snail mail anymore. Just a recommendation, we recommend students to ask individuals that might be related to what they're trying to pursue in college. So if they're interested in pursuing computer science, it might be a good idea to ask their computer science pathway teacher. Because they can speak on their abilities that they're trying to pursue in the higher education level. So for financial aid, again, we've talked about this already, the FAFSA and the California Dream Act, really, really important applications. All students should definitely be filling that out. It opens up here in a couple of weeks on October 1st. For scholarships, we have a list of more local scholarship opportunities available on Naviance. Again, we've showed your guys' students where to find that information. There's also links on the counseling website that we can show you for navigating Naviance. There is also a national database, fastweb.com. So that is a very large search engine that they can utilize to find a lot of scholarship opportunities, probably more than they could even look through. So that's a really great resource as well. And then we recommend checking specific college websites for institutional opportunities. UC and CSU, they're not going to have as much scholarship money to work with, but private or out of states, because it's a little bit more expensive, typically we see that they have a little bit more money to work with. So at private or out of states, there's probably more opportunities to find as far as scholarships go. So we definitely recommend checking out their website. They should list that information for students there. If you have a student that's interested in attending college outside of California, I highly, highly recommend that you look into the Western Undergraduate Exchange, also known as the WUE Scholarship, W-U-E, WUE Scholarship. The WUE Scholarship allows out-of-state students to attend an out-of-state school at a significantly reduced cost. So us being residents of California, it gives us the opportunity to attend Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, I think are all of the states involved. So one of those states, if they attend one of the participating campuses, they don't have to pay the out-of-state tuition. They can pay that WUE scholarship tuition, which usually brings it down to close to the UC cost. So it's a significantly reduced cost. Not every campus in those states that I listed participates in the WUE scholarship, but there is a lot that do. Some of them have specific requirements. So they'll say, if you apply to our school and get accepted and you have a 3.0 or above leaving high school, you're guaranteed the WUE scholarship for all 4 years that you're here, all 5 years, however long it takes. Some of them are campus specific. So some of them say, yes, we give the WUE scholarship if you are in one of these majors. So it does depend on the campus. If you Google WUE Scholarship Finder, it'll bring you up the search engine that allows you to see all of the schools and programs that offer the WUE scholarship. So Naviance, you guys have heard us mention this a little bit. Naviance is a website that we use for our students to, one, help them research colleges, but it also helps us communicate with the colleges. So your students are responsible to add every school that they plan on applying to into their Naviance account. And again, this is something that we've showed them in their class. We're also going back to adulting in October to check in with them about this type of stuff because it's so important. They need to be adding every school that they plan on applying to that list in Naviance. The reason why this is so important is because counselors are responsible for sending several documents on the student's behalf. And the way we know where to send documents to is by them adding the schools into this list. So we have everything uploaded into Naviance and we send it directly to those campuses based on the list that they create in their account. So this is an essential piece of their application. If they do not do this, they're not going to get accepted into their campuses because that campus is not going to get the materials needed in order to evaluate that student. So huge piece of their application. The deadline to add those schools is December 4th. We will be sending out several reminders throughout the semester, reminding students to do this and also sharing those links on if they forgot how, showing them how to do it. So they'll get lots of reminders, but just keep that in mind. This is a huge part of their application. They need to be doing this piece as well so we can make sure we get them that information. For senior grades are not included in the GPA used for admissions for UC, CSU, or for private or out of states because they don't have the data yet when they're evaluating them. However, it doesn't mean that senior grades do not matter. They do matter. They are taking at least one class, English 12, during their senior year. That is going to be required for four-year eligibility. So we really recommend that they maintain their previous performance during senior year. So what I mean by that is if your student was an all A or B student during freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then all of a sudden in senior year, they see all their grades tank down to C's or D's. That might alert a red flag to the college, and they could get their admission rescinded. So maybe they hear in March that they get a yes to the campus, but then after seeing their grades in May or June, they're like, nope, sorry, we're taking that back based off your grades. So it does happen. Senioritis is a real thing. I recognize that, but remind your seniors, especially if they're applying to four-year campuses, that these grades matter. They will be looked at, and they can impact their admissions decision. They might get a yes in March, April, when they're hearing back from their schools, but if they don't perform well, if they don't pass a required class that they're taking, it could cause that school to rescind the admissions decision, meaning they don't have the opportunity to attend that campus.
I had a student this year, 1 week before orientation. They're like packed up, ready to go. They were informed that they're no longer accepted into the school because they reevaluated their senior year grades. And even though they passed all of the A through G requirements with C's or better, their GPA was still not strong enough. They got D's and F's in some other classes, and the admissions was taken away. It was very sad. He came here, I tried to help him, couldn't help him.
And, you know, things happen. So if that does happen, community college is a great option. I really think that there can be a negative stigma against community college. Maybe it's seen as less than from some people. I think every educator would agree with me that if your student decides that community college is the route for them, whether they get accepted to 4 years or not, that's going to be an amazing opportunity for them. And they still have that opportunity to reach a 4-year goal if that's the ultimate goal. So if that stigma is in your guys' mind, I hope that we can squash it a little bit, because community college is definitely just as great as an option. There's a lot of really amazing benefits to attending community college first, even if they do have that 4-year goal in mind. So keep that in mind. So again, this is going to be posted. So there's several resources and guides available. We have a 4-year and 2-year tip sheet. This was passed out to all seniors who were present during our initial presentation that we gave them. We're going to be calling in students who missed it, so they will also get it. It's also available on the website. So the tip sheet is just like basically 2 pages, and it kind of covers all of the important items that they need. So that's a really great resource. If they forget something or have a question, I always recommend checking out the tip sheet because it answers a lot of the questions in that information. We also have a Naviance how-to guide. There's a lot of different elements to Naviance, so there's a couple of videos and articles there that help them navigate that website. How to request letters of recommendation. We've talked about the UC CSU GPA. They use that specific GPA, so there's a link to the calculator there. Let's see. We also have College Week presentations. There's a search tool in Naviance called Find You the Right Fit Supermatch. We've showed all the students how to use this tool, but just in case you all want to go back and look at it, that presentation is available for you guys, and some of the other ones I kind of talked about already. Again, this will be available to everybody on the website. Alrighty, so now we're going to do questions. Since we are kind of virtual and in person, if y'all wouldn't mind submitting your question via the tiny URL link there, we'll start going through all the questions that you guys have. Mrs. Myers here is ready with the computer, so as soon as you submit your question, it's going to pop up on the computer. We'll read it, we'll have Ms. Myers read it aloud, and we will do our best to answer them for you. Yeah, so this should take you to a Google form that should have a what is your question, and then you can type your question in there, and it'll appear for us on the screen. Yeah, try and I think it'd be best maybe to submit here, but while we wait, if you want to start with your question, that's fine.
Can we do one in both, or just one of those two, EV and REA?
Oh yeah, for the decision types.
Yes.
So let's go back.
Early decision, it's just one because it's binding.
Yeah, but if I do EV as one, choose one college, can I go with REA as one option?
No, because you can
So
only
either
do
of
just one.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Either we choose one in REA or we choose one in each?
Yes.
Okay,
But early action is for unlimited applications.
yeah, no, I was talking, RE.
Yeah.
So only one of those two.
Yes.
My question, this GPA calculator, so you already have the GPA score in the Naviance or some, right? So what is the difference between that one and this calculator?
Great question. So his question was, he's noticed a GPA in Naviance, and there's also a GPA that's listed on your student's transcript. There's actually two GPAs that are listed on your student's transcript. One of those GPAs, we like to make it confusing for you guys. One of those GPAs on the transcript is the weighted GPA. So it's the GPA that's including all of the honors or AP classes that they've taken and the extra bump that they get from taking those classes. The other GPA that you see listed on the transcript is the unweighted GPA. So it's all the classes that they've taken, but it's minus that extra bump they get from taking an honors or AP class. The GPA that they see in Naviance is based off of their weighted GPA that you would see on their transcript. All three of those are different from the UC CSU GPA. So the UC CSU GPA is one that students have to go and calculate for themselves. We are offering several success sessions throughout the semester where students can sign up for success, and we'll print their transcript, and we will calculate the UC CSU GPA with them in success. But that is one that has to be calculated either on their own or by coming to one of our sessions, and we can help them do that. Because it doesn't appear on the transcript or in Naviance.
There's a coffee with the counselor on October 12th from 9 to 10 a.m. It'll be virtual, where I will go over the process in very, very much detail. I'll use an example of a transcript and we'll go line by line. So if you want to attend that, that'll be available.
That presentation is also already online as well.
October 12th.
Yeah, so if you guys wanted to get a jump start, you could review the presentation that's online. But I'm not going to lie, it can get a little bit confusing if you're not super familiar with working with the transcript. Mrs. Swami did a great job building that PowerPoint. But if you have questions, definitely come to that October 12th meeting, and she'll go over all of that with you guys.
It's virtual. You don't have to come.
Yeah.
We do have a question online. And the question was, how early should you contact counselors and recommenders for schools not showing up in Naviance? So if it's like a UK school or Europe. So a lot of out-of-country schools still are in Naviance, but if you're finding that it's not in Naviance, then contact the counselor as soon as possible. For many of our schools, if they're not in Naviance, we would send those documents via snail mail, which is fine. So that's why we want to make sure we're getting contacted early so we know that we have to mail those documents. But like I said, the majority of colleges should be in Naviance, and we do have international schools in there as well.
And Naviance is very, very sensitive as far as using it as a search engine. So what I found is a lot of the times the school is in there, they're just not typing it correctly or how it wants it. So I would recommend them maybe try to type the title of the school in maybe a couple of different ways. Sometimes I even go on Google and look at what they officially call their school, because sometimes for whatever reason, Naviance is very, very specific, and if you don't talk to it just how it wants it, the school won't pop up. But most schools, I would say, are in there. I don't think I've had one in my 4 years where a school has not been listed, and we have had many international and kind of out of states and all sorts of things.
One question about the TAG program. For the TAG, if you know which UC you want to kind of go major with, is that the same time when you apply for the UC, or do you have to kind of have a separate process for that in the TAG program? You do any separate, like you said, you have to do a contract with them, right? So
Right.
is there a timeline? How do we do it? Where do we have to individually reach out to a UC or something?
So if your student is interested in attending a community college and potentially tagging to one of those UC campuses, what they would do is they're going to apply to the community college of their choice. They don't have to necessarily choose a major or anything at that time. You don't have to notify the UC that you are interested at that time. Just apply to the community college. They'll want to register, sign up for their classes. And once they start at the community college, we highly recommend that they get in touch with their counselor there. just like at the high school level, whether they're at 2-year or 4-year college, there is going to be a counseling team available or academic advisors available, and they would help your student make sure they create the right list of classes that they need and work with them on transferring and making sure they're meeting those requirements and helping them with the transfer application when that time comes. So it's not something that you need to notify the UC campus for prior to attending the community college. Your student would just sign up for that community college, start attending. Once they start, they'll want to meet with their counselor, and the counselor there will give them the full process of what the next 2 years, including applying, will look like.
Just an extension of that. Is there any difference if you apply for Delta College versus last year? The same universities apply to both?
Correct. So this TAG program is a program that goes across all California community colleges. So any community college that they attend in California, let's say that you guys are moving to Southern California, that's okay. Even though the community colleges in Southern California are going to have this TAG program as an option. So any California community college that they attend.
And
Just one last on that. I saw the application start program in January 1st. But is there any date?
So with the community colleges, the earlier you apply and then the earlier you do the steps that they want you to do, then you get a better like enrollment date, which means like if you wait until May to apply and then you wait for your ID number and all that stuff, those classes are getting full because students are starting to already pick their classes. So the sooner you apply and the sooner you get your registration done, then you can get an enrollment date and actually pick your classes. If you don't end up going there, you can always just drop the classes as long as they haven't started yet. But I would, if that's maybe something that you're considering, I would do the steps as soon as possible. It doesn't hurt in any way.
So if you're a student who's maybe waiting to hear from your 4-year colleges first, that's okay. Wait until what is March? Is it April?
Yeah.
March, April, those decisions start coming out. That's okay. Maybe they don't get into the school that they want. Then in April, then if they can apply to the community college. Yeah. But they have more of a rolling application where they're continuously accepting. There is a deadline, but it's very, very late. So
It's like 2 weeks after the class has started.
yeah. So they have plenty of time.
So based on the pathway and the subjects the student is going to select, so do you recommend any CSUs? Because applying for all the CSUs doesn't make sense, as you said, right? So okay, like computer science, San Jose State University, some other 2-3 universities, if you recommend, that really helps them thinking for students when they are.
Yeah, so when students are creating that list of balanced schools that they are applying to, we've showed them how in Naviance, you're able to look at the average admission data for previous students who were accepted into that campus. So students can go into Naviance and say they're interested in San Jose State. They can look at previous admission data from San Jose State and see, most people applying to San Jose State who are accepted are getting about a 3.9. I have a 4.1. That means I have a pretty strong chance of getting into San Jose State. So
it depends upon the kind of subject or the kind of
the major as well.
Major they are going to go,
Yes.
right?
So there's also a research tool in Naviance that they can use that allows them to say, I want to find California colleges that offer this major. And so then they'll get a full list of schools that offer that specific major that they're looking for. This is also something that we've shown them in class. We also have the virtual workshops. So that's called the Super Match tool in Naviance, which was finding the right fit right here. Using Super Match. If you guys are interested on how that research tool works, that PowerPoint, and it was a virtual presentation given by Ms. Friesen. Minute 28 is where she starts the tutorial of Super Match. But that's a really great resource for students or parents if you're looking for a specific campus that has this specific thing. There's many filters that can be applied, some of them related to major, also related to admissions rate. So maybe they only want campuses that are accepting more than 50% of students. You can put that filter in there. There's a lot of different ways to kind of play around with that Super Match.
Yeah, something to keep in mind is how impacted the school is based upon the major. Like you mentioned, computer science in San Jose State. San Jose State their computer science program is very impacted. So if they're wanting to do computer science, but then they don't meet the 3.9 or 4.1, then you might be looking at CSUs like Humboldt State or Sac State, where maybe their programs are not as impacted.
Impacted means the campus is receiving more applicants than it has space for. So an impacted campus or an impacted major is one where it's over full. So therefore it's more competitive than maybe a major that's not impacted.
There was a question online that says, does Naviance work with the Common App? And it does work with Common App. There is actually an additional step if your student is using the Common Application. They actually have to match their Common App with Naviance. That's how we get the two systems to talk to each other. It's a really simple process. It's about a 20-second tutorial video that we have posted everywhere, and we can help students with that. But yes, you can use Naviance with Common Application. And someone asked if this presentation was going to be shared, and it is. It's recorded and will be available.
I can send it out to all senior parents tomorrow in the areas of communication as well, so you guys get the link to the presentation.
For the UC personal insight questions, it was written that it's a 250 limit for the words, but I think it's 350 on the website.
They change it. Well, definitely follow the website. Definitely follow the website.
That's why
Yes, definitely follow the website. I will double check that for you guys, and I'll make sure that in my email that I send tomorrow, I send a clarification for that.
And then,
Thank you so much.
and one more question. I noticed on the Common App, they ask for the school report. So is that something that's done through Naviance, or how does that work?
Yes. So the school profile or the school report is going to be sent through Naviance. So that's why it's essential that your student adds the schools into their Naviance account. We'll see that they're applying to a Common App school, and we'll make sure to fill out that school report.
We got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Someone sent in a question online saying the UC application in the drop down for courses, when they're reporting their courses, some of the courses are not reflected in the drop down menu. And we realized that this is a concern. We sent all the students and we showed all the students how to look up and get the accurate course title. It's through the UC articulation website, and we have that posted as well on their tip sheet. So when you're actually going through the application and you're entering in the courses, use the UC articulation website so that you're getting the accurate course title. That's also going to be another part of, we already talked about that in our initial presentation with students, and we'll go over that again when we meet with them in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We're going back in their classes.
So for example, one of the big ones that we see, students take Math 1, Math 2, Math 3. In the UC and CSU application, it's actually integrated Math 1, integrated Math 2, integrated Math 3. So some of the courses that, as it's listed on the transcript, it looks a little bit different on how it's listed in the UC or CSU application. The website that they can use to help them with that process is called UC Doorways. So if they research UC Doorways, they'll be able to look up Mountain House High School, and it's going to have our full course list of classes, and it's going to tell them what that class is listed as in the CSU UC system. Another common one that we get a question about is world history. On our transcript, it's just world history, but when they're filling out the application, they call it like Big World History Project or something like that. So there's a couple of ones that are a little bit funny like that, but your students can utilize UC Doorways to help them with this, and it'll be something that we're talking about when we go back to their classes.
So if they took, like she was saying, Math 1, so if they took it in person, it's integrated Math 1, but then if they took it online, it's Mathematics 1.
Yeah.
So it's very important to pick the right class.
Yeah. Can be, they like to make it.
Yeah, they like it
as
difficult as possible.
Confusing. But I will say the CSU application guide, if they Google CSU application guide, there's about like a 40-page report that goes over step by step every piece of the application and frequently asked questions about that section of the application. So the CSU application guide, I highly recommend. It's a really, really great resource. I'm using it all the time for myself because I'm forgetting where things go or what happens. UC also has a UC guide that you can use. It's not as great as the one for CSU, but it's still a really helpful resource. The other option is all 2-year and 4-year colleges are going to have admissions counselors, academic advisors. You guys can reach out to admissions counselors with questions. They will meet with you virtually if you have questions. They will answer your questions through email. So definitely utilize them as a resource as well. They're happy to help your students. So if you ever have a question about something specific to that campus, a great resource is the admissions counselors from that specific campus.
We will also hold success sessions where we can help students review their application. So if they do it in enough time, we'd be more than happy to browse through it with them and help them figure out the right class or how to input it or whatnot.
Every week on Monday, I send out a list of activities that we're offering during Success that week. You guys might have noticed they're coming through to your guys' email. So each week, if your student has a question for their college application, they sign up for one of those successes. We have several that are dedicated to only seniors. We meet in this room right over here, and they're welcome to come in and get help with their applications. So that's 5 days a week, pretty much, we're offering success or support sessions.
So regarding UC GPA calculation, the courses taken into the community colleges, which are not articulated in school GPA, will that be considered in the UC GPA?
So if only classes that are on the high school transcript that they earned, like maybe the dual credit for, those courses will be included in the UC or CSU GPA if they were taken in that timeline. So specifically summer after 9th grade through summer after junior year, the summer that they just completed. So if maybe they took US history over the summer, that class from Delta, if it's on their high school transcript taken during that time frame, will be included in the UC CSU GPA. They will report every class that they've taken though. So any class that they have taken outside of Mountain House High, whether that's at Delta College, Las Positas, maybe another organization like BYU Independent Study, they're going to be reporting every class that they have taken within Mountain House High and outside of Mountain House High. Just not every class is going to be part of the GPA calculation.
So even the UC GPA, the school transcript will be only articulated course will be considered, but not articulated course.
It will count. It will count. So for the UC specific application, you will put all of your community college classes on there, and it will calculate the GPA for all of the electives that you put on there for those time frames.
Yeah, even though it is not.
Even though we don't articulate it onto our high school transcript. Yeah.
So it will
But
be
I think what Ms. Foote was talking about is the Common App will only look at the classes that we articulate, and they won't let you put all of the rest of them until after you've been admitted. Then you can send it and they will articulate it. But for UC and CSU, you're able to put in all of the classes that you've taken at Delta College and use it for, so if it's after that time frame that we talk about, they will look at all of it.
So they will be counted for UC only.
Yeah.
They will be counted in your GPA calculation, right? Even though it is not on high school transcript.
Yes. And students are finding out that the more A's that they're getting and the more classes that they're taking, their average GPA actually continues to drop. So please keep that in mind. It's taking an average. So just because you've taken more classes will not give you a higher GPA. You have to remember that you can only, for UC and CSU, you can only max out at 8 semesters of AP and honors points. At some point, they're just becoming an average. And the more classes you have, your average actually drops. So please keep that in mind.
Some of those classes are getting counted on the 5.0 scale, but once they've reached the max of honors or AP courses, which is at 8, then those classes are on the 4.0 scale. So maybe they had a 4.5, and now all of those classes are counting on the 4.0 scale. That could cause the GPA, the 4.5, to go down a little bit. So,
but no matter what, we have to enter. We have to.
Yes. Yes.
Students study internationally. They don't have any GPA or this thing, right? How would they be considered?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that.
I mean, students study out of country.
Oh.
And how they won't have any GPA. What is the process?
A lot of our students, we had someone email that one too. International records, we can't assess international transcripts. So we've been giving a lot of information to our students that do have any international records. There is a place where they can get them evaluated, and that's how they can know, like, are they qualified? So the UCs and CSUs, the colleges that they're actually applying to, will evaluate and assess and assign the GPA. We just can't do that at the high school because counselors don't assess international records. But we do have documents that we could help our students if they need that to get assessed by a college.
So if your student is an international student or was an out-of-country student and has those international records, tell them to reach out to their counselor. We will send them the PDF document that has the contacts for those agencies who will evaluate your student for 4-year eligibility. So if your student is in this position, just tell them to reach out to their counselor and we will give them the information they need so they can be evaluated for that 4-year eligibility.
We had someone asking online about the process for reporting like scores, like AP scores. All the scores, AP scores, SAT scores, the student will go on to their College Board account and release those scores. So they will do that. And then when it comes, someone also asked online about the transcript and the community service hours. Those are not updated. There's a manual update that we have to do for all transcripts, so it doesn't happen instantaneously. So some of the hours on the high school transcript for community service might not be updated. Our Aries coordinator actually has to go through and manually update that.
It'll be fully updated when they send their official transcript at the end of the school year, when they're accepted to their college of their choice and they've accepted that admission. They'll be responsible to send a transcript to that school after their final grades have been posted in the spring. On that transcript, everything will be completely updated. Their grades from their entire senior year, their community service requirement, and the other pieces as well. Just one more note about AP. Sometimes students are concerned that AP scores are going to impact the admission decision. They don't. So if your student takes an AP exam and they don't pass it, or maybe they don't score well on it, that's okay. It's not going to be included in that admissions decision.
Yeah, quick question on the financial aid of FAFSA. Is it really tied to the school, or is it really tied to the school and also the major? So for example, if the student is undecided for the major, are they still going to be able to receive the financial aid and they?
Yes.
It's tied to the school.
As long as
Yes.
it's the same college, right?
Yes, yes.
You can add up to 10 schools on the financial aid application, and it's tied to it goes to the schools that you put into the FAFSA application. It's not tied to the major.
And you can update it. So say if you fill it out in October and you put 10 schools in, and then maybe by the time springtime rolls around, they have a couple of other schools that they added. Maybe they didn't apply to some of those original 10. You can update the list. So it can be updated.
Thank you.
For the AP test, you said that it doesn't affect the admission, but it affects the grade itself.
Well, so for AP classes, students are taking the AP class here at Mountain House High. They'll receive a fall and a semester grade for, the work that they complete in that class. And then they have the option to take the AP exam at the end of the year. The AP exam gives them the opportunity to earn college credit for that class. So if they were taking AP World History and they took the AP exam and passed it with a 3 or better, I think is the score, 3 or better, then they earn college credit for that AP class that they took. If they didn't pass the AP exam at the end of the year, it's not going to affect the fall or spring grade that's listed on their transcript, and it's also not going to impact the admissions decision.
So only to earn the.
Yeah.
Yes. The AP exam is strictly to earn the college credit for that class that they've taken.
So about the tax program, so you said it's an assured transfer, right? And they have to take a contract. So how do they know how to decide on what majors are available? Like, for example, like all majors are available.
Yeah, so this would be a good conversation to have with a community college counselor. They'd be able to give more guidance of what majors are more impacted at what schools, and kind of help them with that process. Before applying. Yeah. So as soon as your student starts at that community college, maybe they start attending there next year, I would recommend in the fall semester. So what is that? Fall 2023. I would recommend that they make an appointment with their college counselor at the community college. Let them know that, hey, my goal is to transfer to one of these schools in this major. And they will help make sure that they are meeting the requirements, hitting the deadlines and all of that type of stuff.
And some community colleges will actually meet with them in the spring. So if they're applying in the spring and wanting to go in, they could get that information right in the spring and be all ready.
If they take the biology pathway and then they change to the engineering, that they are applying for engineering at the college, will it affect that?
No.
The application?
No.
Pathways that they're taking here do not tie them into something in college. So of course, if your student is interested in engineering and then if they would have completed the full engineering pathway, that is something that might have benefited them because they would have had that prior history already done. But the fact that they didn't do that is not something that's going to necessarily negatively impact them. Yeah.
So students before coming to US, they have to select the colleges and the majors also, right? Before.
When they're applying during the application period. Yes, so during the application period, so for example, UC or CSU, they're filling out that one application, then at the end, they're going to select maybe 4 or 5 schools that they plan on sending that application to. For each one of those campuses, they'll pick a major to apply to.
Major or 2 majors?
It depends. So for CSU, one of them does double. I can't remember
so
which
CSU will let you pick like a primary and then a secondary. So if you don't get into computer science and then you pick like business administration, if they don't accept you for computer science, then they might consider you for the next major that you selected.
But that's just for CSU.
Yeah, CSU, I don't know. Every year the application changes.
It's UC as well? Okay, now they have that opportunity as well. Okay.
I haven't gone through the application this year.
It sounds like UC is also offering that opportunity this year where they can put in 2 major options. Students can also decide to apply undeclared or undecided if they do not know what major they want to pursue yet. But keep in mind that some majors do require the students to start it immediately as a freshman or start it as immediately as a transfer student if they go to community college first and then transfer. So those are going to be like your computer science, engineering, some of those more STEM majors. Some of them do need to be started first semester of freshman year. So keep that in mind. If your student is really passionate about one of those more STEM majors, I would recommend, if they're considering applying undecided or undeclared, I would recommend they check into the campuses that they're interested in to see what the requirements are for those majors that they're looking into. Because some of them do have to be started either as a first-time freshman in the fall semester of their freshman year or as a transfer student if they're doing the community college and then 4-year plan.
So joining as an undecided group, so that doesn't make you guaranteed to get the major what we wanted when we make the decision, right?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So especially if we're talking about one of those more competitive or majors that require more units to complete the overall major. So if they're unsure, always recommend reaching out to the admissions counselor of the school that they're interested in because they'll be able to give them the exact details of what majors need to be started right away during freshman
Colleges
year.
always have an option to say no, and whenever he decides, oh, you want to go for this one, they can say no, that's not available to you.
Yes, yeah, they could say that. Yeah, so that's why it's good to do the research prior to, so you know if he's really interested in, biochem. But biochem is one that you can't start, sophomore year. It'd be good to know that when you're applying. So if they want to do biochem, they apply for biochem and hopefully they'll get accepted for biochem. Yeah.